think we ready to go? Christine, you ready to go? Give me a wave. Okay. I can't see you anymore.
I think it's for us, really.
So I'm going to call the regular city council meeting of the city of Colleyville to order for August the 4th, 2020 at 7:32. So let me first call the roll. Councilmember Nakamura.
Here.
Councilmember Nakamura.
Here.
I see you.
Here. Yeah, I feel out of place as well, sitting
I
here,
know,
so.
yeah, I know. Mayor Pro Tem Linda Mood would have been here, planned to be here, but he took his daughter to get logged into her housing for college in Stephenville, and he found out late today that they couldn't get in, so he had to run into a problem. He couldn't get back. So he will not be with us tonight, unfortunately. Councilmember Wheat.
Here.
Mayor's here. Councilmember Dodson.
Here.
Councilmember Kelly.
Here.
Councilmember Rigney.
Here.
So we always open with an invocation and a pledge of allegiance. So this evening, Farzine Homaraji, I'm sorry if I mispronounced that name, from the Colleyville Baja community is going to do the invocation, and then we'll have the pledge of allegiance. Please stand.
O my God, unite the hearts of thy servants and reveal to them thy great purpose. May they follow thy commandments and abide in thy law. Help them, O God, in their endeavor, and grant them strength to serve thee. O God, leave them not to themselves, but guide their steps by the light of thy knowledge, and cheer their hearts by thy love. Verily thou art the helper and the Lord. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I want to welcome everyone tonight. Thank you for coming. And we do have viewers on the TV, I know, so thank you for watching. And as you can see, we've been social distancing for a while. We have people down on the floor that normally are all up here. And so whenever I come down, and we'll have a proclamation after a while, I'll put my mask on then when I'm close to people, but I'm not going to do it up here. I can't, it's hard to talk. Tonight we have a reasonably long agenda, so there's a number of items that are going to have a public hearing. You're welcome to speak on any of those. I encourage people to speak on these items. We do have cards in the back. You can fill out your name and address and what item you want to speak on. But irregardless of whether you do that or not, I will not close a public hearing without asking if everyone has spoken that wants to speak. So I don't want to miss anyone. And we like to have good discussions on every topic that we have to make a decision on. So again, thank you. So we will just got out of executive session, as we always do right before we come into this meeting. And we have agenda item 2 there for the purpose of voting on issues that may come up in the executive session that we need to make a decision on, because we cannot make a decision outside the public eye. So we'll make the decision here publicly. We do have one tonight, so it's a reading in public hearing of a resolution. Let me read it, and then we'll have a discussion on it at a public hearing. Resolution R-20-4520, a resolution approving council action regarding executive session items at the regular city council meeting of August 4, 2020. Whereas following discussion in an executive session and in full accordance with the requirements of the Open Meetings Act, the city council determines that the following action is in the best interest of the health, safety, and welfare of the public. Now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Colleyville, Texas, Section 1, that the City Council hereby authorizes and approves a real estate acquisition in the amount of $21,450 plus associated closing costs for the purchase of right-of-way at 5008 Roberts Road. Section 2, that the City Council hereby authorizes and approves a real estate acquisition in the amount of $35,803, together with the covenants and the right-of-way agreement plus associated closing costs for the purchase of right-of-way at 3708 Glade Road. Section 3, that $30,703 at the sum of the part acquired, $5,100 at the sum replacement of 2 parking spaces and 1 sign. And it is so resolved. Ray, you want to tell us about this?
Yes, I will. Mayor, council members, good evening. Ray Silvarez, Director of Public Works. This right-of-way acquisition is part of the Roberts Road project, going from Glade Road all the way up to the northern city limits and as it butts up to Grapevine. And so these two properties near the intersection of Glade and Roberts are being acquired. The one on the west side is acquired for the right-of-way turn pocket. And so there is the 21,450. And then the smaller church on the east side of Roberts Road is being heavily impacted by the construction, especially with the closure of the driveway right near the intersection. And so we'll be doing the initial right-of-way offering plus some improvements on the property to make them whole again. And so staff recommends approval.
Okay, very good. Council, have any questions?
Nope.
Pretty straightforward, and I think both property owners took the first offer, and everybody was happy. So that's good.
That's correct.
Okay, very good. Well, thank you very much. I'm going to open the public hearing. Public hearing is open. I know you didn't see this on the agenda, but anyone is welcome to speak on this item if you desire. Just let me know. I see no one wishing to speak, so I'm going to close the public hearing. Public hearing is closed. Motion is in order.
I make a motion to approve Resolution R-20-4520.
A second.
I have a motion to approve by Councilmember Nakamura, and I want to heard Councilmember Rigney. She seconded it. So would you open the vote, please? You may show it whenever it's ready. Lost track of who's running it. Mark, is it you or Christine? Okay. You locked up? Christine, you want to vote manually?
Everyone did vote and voted.
Or did it?
Everyone did vote and vote aye.
Okay.
You
It can't show it, so we have recorded the vote. The vote's unanimous approving the resolution, therefore the resolution's approved and the resolution approved. Motion was approved. Thank you. Okay, we'll move to agenda item number 3 now. This is announcements, proclamations, and presentations. So typically we always have announcements, and we go through our announcements first, then we do have a proclamation tonight, so we'll get to that. I'll start off with the announcements. I wanted to talk about 2 things. I always give you an update on the COVID situation. I also want to give you an update tonight on the West Nile virus. So every year at this time of the year, we start testing, and the whole county is a testing program for mosquitoes to detect if there's West Nile virus or not. So last week we had 3 mosquito samples that tested positive for the West Nile virus, and we also had 2 people in Colleyville test positive for the virus. So that's not insignificant to us. We certainly have a plan of action. We always spray when this happens, and we'll spray locally. For sure, if it gets worse it gets, we'll extend out a mile, and if it gets worse, we'll go beyond that. So there's a whole phased approach involved in this. I was at the Tarrant County Mayor's Council meeting last night that we have once a month, and Vinny, who is the county medical director, spoke and gave us an update on this, and he has issued a public health warning concerning West Nile virus, and in our plan of action when this occurs, we are in phase 3. And so I say all that, the fact that he issued a public health warning is not an insignificant thing. So, you know, in addition to fogging areas, we want to have an aggressive information campaign to let people know about this and remind our residents to take precautions, use insect repellents when you're outside. We have a social media outreach And we actually send out information on our Code Red system, which is a telephone system to let people know what's going on, and emails and text messages in every way that we can. But what I want you to know this and let your neighbors know this. What we encourage you to do is, the things you should do is try to avoid standing water, drain standing water out of the plants or wherever it may be around your home or your yard. Dawn and dusk are the worst time for mosquitoes. You dress appropriately and cover your sleeves, wear long sleeves and things of that nature. That helps. Use insect repellents like DEET. If they're getting in your house from cracks, try to keep the cracks out of your doors and windows. So those are the things that we recommend you do, but mainly we want you to know about this and be aware of it so that you can be careful. Second thing I will always talk about is kind of a COVID update. Also at the Tarrant County Monthly meeting, Mayor's Council last night, the medical director gave us an update on the status of COVID in the county and the state, and he reported, and I want to quote him, he said, hospital cases are trending down and positivity rate is trending down. So that's good news. That's a general statement, but he talked about the numbers last night as well. And we always talk numbers. We watch the numbers every day, and we have some parameters that we watch to decide if we need to make decisions or not. Earlier today, Colleyville staff calculated the number of positive active cases in Colleyville, and the number for today, and by the way, they do that by simple 14-day roll-off calculation from the cumulative positives that show in the Tarrant County report. So they always report total positives, which accumulate, never goes down. It can only go up by definition of cumulative. So what we're interested in how many people, what's the estimate of people in our community is active with the virus? In other words, those are the people that you can get infected from. So using the data available to us, which is imperfect data, we take the positives, and after 14 days, when a positive goes, somebody's tested positive, the medical community says, you quarantine yourself for how long? 14 days. What does that mean? If you test positive, quarantine for 14 days, they used to require a negative test to show that you're okay. Don't do that anymore. They use the 14 days. After 14 days and you have no symptoms, you're cleared to proceed with your life. And so that's the reason we use a 14-day roll-off, simply to try to estimate how many remaining actives there are. So we do that every day. And current positive, and my terms are important, positive active counts, which means they're still have it. We have about 32 cases. We have 175 cumulative positives. 143 have rolled off due to the 14-day roll-off over time, and so that leaves 32. And we still have the cumulative positives, but we consider the people that after 14 days, we do not view them as a threat to the community. So that's basically what it is. And either they're okay at that point, or they're in the hospital probably. And unfortunately, we do not have data. The county does not have data on who's in the hospital from what communities. County does report recoveries, but if you look on the county website at recoveries, it has a number, has an asterisk, and in tiny print at the bottom of that page, it explains in about a small paragraph that those are, don't use those numbers for estimates or projections because they are, it's not all the data. They only have what they have, and it's fairly imperfect. So it's just not a good, unfortunately, we just don't have perfect data. Wish we did, nobody does, so we're doing the best we can to make decent estimates of how threatening we think it is in the community. Some comments about what others do, by the way. The county uses it says here 28 days. They told me 20, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. 28-day roll-off. So they've started doing the same thing we're doing, but have a little longer time frame. The reason they have a longer time frame is they have observed a case. The longest case they've observed is that length of time. Very rare that that happens, but that's what they use. They're very conservative. Others across the state, and I think the state uses a 80% recovery rate in the first 14 days and assume 20% lasts longer than 14 days. All those are algorithms and mathematical. They all work. Ours works. That's what we do. It really doesn't. We're looking at parameters having to do with what percentage of the hospital is available, what capability in the medical community is available to treat patients. That's what's important to us. And of course, deaths are important to us. And so,
And Mayor, we have none.
yeah, we have no deaths. We're very blessed. Have no deaths, so that's holding. Anyway, while this debate rages about what you do, it's pretty straightforward. The current numbers for Tarrant County, 35% of the total hospital capacity in Tarrant County, 35% is available for any patient today. That's quite that's a good number. 10% of the hospital bed capacity in Tarrant County is used for COVID patients. And the remaining 55% is being used for all other medical reasons. So the governor's approach has always maintained some portion of the hospital bed capacity available for whatever we need in case the virus increases rapidly on us. But it's been very steady. In fact, that hospital bed capacity is actually, the available capacity has gone up. So the trends are right, which is good. Ventilator capacity is at 69%, so that's been good for a long time, up in that 65 to 70% range. No problem there. And so those are the numbers, but I tell everybody every time I talk now, continue to champion, use your common sense. We all know what we need to do to keep ourselves and our families safe. Keep a physical distance, wear a mask when you're in public and you can't physical distance. Wash your hands, don't touch your face. It's really pretty much that simple. I have always complimented our Colleyville residents. You guys do an excellent job at all of this. I was just out and about today at a restaurant and got to talking to some people, and they were making the same comments. My observation everywhere I go in town, can't say that for every city, but in Colleyville, people do an excellent job. And so I really appreciate that and thank everyone for doing that. I just encourage you to keep going, keep doing it. So that's what I want to say.
I have an update on Economic Development Program, one of our program updates, I'm sorry. The CPOP program, which stands for Colleyville Professional 1-Minute Promos, continues to be popular with already 30 businesses signed up to participate. This free program is available to all businesses within Colleyville city limits and pairs our talented video production staff with small businesses to produce 1-minute promotional videos. Participants will also receive a $1,000 cash grant upon video completion to spend on advertising to promote their new video. For more information, please contact Ronnie Orr at 817-503-1113.
Has anybody seen any of those videos?
Not yet,
They're pretty good.
but I've seen their work in general and it's excellent, so I'm sure they're great.
Okay, the City of Colleyville has once again, this is not our first time, but once again, been awarded the Distinguished Budget Presentation Award from the Government Finance Officers Association. Oh, that's a lot. GFOA, for the current fiscal year. This award is the highest form of recognition in governmental budgeting. Its attainment represents a significant achievement by our organization. Congratulations to our finance team and the exceptional leadership of Mark Wood in achieving this award with Kyle Lester now at the helm. I have no doubt that we will continue to be recognized every year, right, Kyle?
He's got
Yeah,
you.
there he is. I'm sure we will. Thank you.
And I'm going to announce fire departments secured, our fire department secured a radio grant. In the ongoing pursuit of grant funds, the fire department leadership applied for $40,000 in Council of Government funding and this is actually a North Central Texas Council of Government Traffic Management Grant. It's a grant that is offered for different areas. And the idea was to secure additional radios for our firefighters. The grant relates to traffic mitigation and safety, basically to ensure good communication between our firefighters and as they're fighting a fire. Our staff worked to connect our need to equip our newly hired firefighters that we were able to add to our organization through a SAFER grant. It's SAFER, stands for safety. With this funding opportunity, the grant applications emphasize regional partnerships and interoperability across the region. I think you're probably, several of you are familiar with the fact that when we had 9/11, different police and fire organizations weren't able to communicate with each other. And now we're in a situation where our firefighters often end up working with firefighters from other cities. And so having the ability to communicate is critical on a second-by-second basis. So anyway, with us this evening are Captain Daniel Torrey and Captain Scott Gill. Could you both stand, please? Thank you very much.
Come on down.
Work. Yeah, come on down.
We want people to see you.
And you, these men, these men submitted the grant application on behalf of our department. We appreciate that very, very much. It saved tax money, and it's a great activity that you all have done.
I think city manager wants to brag on you a little bit.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Councilmember Dotson and Mayor Newton. You know, it's really exciting to once again see our fire department highlighted at a council meeting for the outstanding service that they provide to our residents. But this particular case was very unique because this was something that wasn't on any of our radar. It was an opportunity that they saw that really dealt with mitigation related to accidents and intersections and really didn't relate traditionally to radios. And last year we received a grant, as you mentioned, Councilmember Dotson, to hire additional firefighters. And these gentlemen thought, well, let's try to get some grant money to provide radios. And it's another example of how our department and our staff is going above and beyond to try to find unique opportunities for our community. You know, our fire department's going to be rolling out their new engine soon, their new fire truck, and that resulted in a huge amount of work by our personnel in time designing and making sure it was efficient and it was the best piece of equipment for our community. And they get a lot of credit for saving lives because they're fantastic at that. And this is just a wonderful opportunity to also congratulate them on their personal efforts to benefit our community. And thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, good job.
Thank you, guys.
All right, in comparison, this isn't as exciting, but very important. I'm going to make this exciting, that's right. So if you have ever emailed the city and not gotten a response, it might have been related to a problem we had with Google. So the IT staff has worked with engineers at Google on the ongoing challenges regarding city-generated emails going to recipient spam folder. That process identified an encryption validation code that related to a previous provider. This reference created validation problems with email. If you didn't understand that, it just means somebody else had it first and messed it up for us. So staff initiated the changes to our email validation and encryption tools, and we believe this will correct the problem. We will continue to review the system performance to validate corrective action. So hopefully soon, if you email the city, you'll find it in your inbox.
So why are we taking the time to announce this? Because this city and this city manager and all of us and the staff pride ourselves on responding to citizens immediately or the same day. And so I know, Kathy, you would want to talk about this, that we had citizens that were getting email responses, but they were claiming they didn't get anything. And so we were saying, what's
Right.
going on?
Right, they never saw the response, it was in their spam, so.
Right,
Yeah.
in the spam. And so it became a serious issue that we have to get resolved. And so we want you to know we're working on it.
And Mayor, and to that note, if anyone ever communicates with the city and doesn't get a response
Yeah.
in a reasonable time frame, whether it's email, phone, or otherwise,
Yeah.
please feel free to call my office.
Yep.
You're also welcome, on the website, it's got not only the office number and email, but it's got my cell phone. So you're welcome to text or call on the weekends. Please feel free to use that. I'm in town and can respond.
Yep.
If I don't respond to the call right away, I'm not sure if you're trying to sell me a warranty for my car. Sometimes on the weekends, I don't always answer the call, but leave a message or text me, and I will definitely respond right away.
My cell phone's everywhere. If you call me, I'm gonna call him. So,
Yes, sir.
I have a couple of Chamber of Commerce updates. Mark your calendars. The annual Chamber of Commerce golf outing is scheduled for September 21st at the Texas Star Golf Course. Please call the Chamber office for more details at 817-488-7148. And also, they are having a virtual luncheon. The next Chamber of Commerce, the next Colleyville Chamber of Commerce will hold a virtual luncheon Thursday, August 6th from 11:30 to 1 p.m. via Zoom. Lunch is provided by Laveria if desired. Lunches will be picked up for persons at City Hall requesting lunch. All others will need to pick up their lunch at the Chamber office at 5601 Colleyville Boulevard at 11 a.m. The meeting topic will be COVID-19, exciting, changing life as we know it. The speaker will be Ann Chow, CEO of AT&T Business. Please call the Chamber office for more details, again at 817-488-7148.
and those work better than you might imagine they would, actually.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah. And Chamber Golf Tournament, aren't you helping to do that, Mark?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're gonna have a city team?
Yep, the stars.
Good, that's fun. Oh.
And I get to talk about the increase in train horns. TexRail has notified the city that work is set to begin on the construction of a new fence along the railroad right-of-way running through Colleyville. This activity may lead to an increase in horn activity as the crews will be working near the tracks. Additional railroad flaggers will be utilized to enhance safety and expedite the work. It is anticipated this work could go on for up to 3 weeks.
And I'll report that it is happening.
I've heard it.
And so that's the fence that they're putting in that's really,
Safety fence.
Decorative.
and it's gonna be
Safety-
decorative.
safety
We
fence.
gave money to make it nicer.
Right.
Along that trail. Very good, I'm glad to see that's happening.
Yep.
So, I do have a proclamation tonight. I have a proclamation to recognize Professional Engineers Day, of which I am one, and we have a bunch of them in the room tonight. So I'm gonna ask them to come up. So we have 3 professional engineers in the city. Larry Wright, city engineer, come on up. Nathan Froman, are you here? And David Ishii, are you guys here? Yeah. Come on up. And so these guys are our professional engineers in the city. Now we have some guests tonight, and I'm gonna come down there too. Austin Baird, who is a Colleyville resident, and he is president of the Fort Worth chapter of the Texas Society of Professional Engineers. And then we have Katie McCarty and Ryan Dufour, who are members of the DFW Mid-Cities chapter, which actually I'm a member of too. And Karen Chambers, the president of that one, was planning to be here tonight. Unfortunately, she got sick and wasn't able to join us. So let me come down there to be with you guys. And I'm back in the blue tonight.
Every night, every night.
It's not up here. Here.
Well, the microphone.
Later.
Mike's by Adrian.
The mask.
Oh, no, good job, Tammy.
I'm lost. Our host system, is that on? Can you hear me? There it is. system's messed up tonight with all this distancing and whatnot, and people being out of place. But anyway, I really appreciate all you guys being here, and I'm going to be thinking about what you might want to say, because when I get through reading the proclamation, I'm going to ask you if you want to say something. But this is all about professional engineers. Of course, I'm biased, but you might think we're dull, but we're honest people. And one thing I can say about engineers, professional engineers, it has a very, very, very strong ethics component to it. You know, we have to go through and talk about that every year as part of our renewing education, and it's very good stuff. And these are all dedicated people that do a tremendous amount of work. They're the ones that build things, design things that make it efficient and our life great for everyone. And so they typically are in the background a lot. They deserve, I think, to be front and center, and we appreciate them, and so I wanted to recognize that. So let me read the proclamation first. And this is, whereas licensed professional engineers are dedicated to applying scientific knowledge, mathematics, and ingenuity to develop solutions for technical, societal, and commercial problems while holding paramount the public health, safety, and welfare. Number one priority for engineers, health, safety, and welfare of the public. Whereas Colleyville licensed professional engineers have made significant contributions on a local and national scale, and whereas Colleyville's economy has grown in part because its licensed professional engineers are instrumental to our community. And whereas August 5, 2020 has been declared Professional Engineers Day by the Texas Society of Professional Engineers in conjunction with the National Society of Professional Engineers, an organization founded in 1934 that represents the interest of more than 31,000 licensed professional engineers and those on the path to licensure, who show the highest level of dedication to their profession in all 50 states and U.S. territories. Now, therefore, I, Richard Newton, Mayor of the City of Colleyville, Texas, do hereby proclaim August 5, 2020 as Professional Engineers Day in the City of Colleyville and call upon all citizens to recognize the contributions professional engineers make every day to our health, safety, comfort, and quality of life. In witness whereof, I do here set my hand and seal of the City of Colleyville affixed this 4th day of August 2020. So, again, thank all of you for being here, and I'm just going to start down at this end. Austin, Baird, do you want to make any comments?
Just really a quick thank you to Mayor Newton, the council, and the rest of the city for taking a moment to recognize professional engineers and what we do for the community.
Some of you may not know, but I'm actually from Colleyville, grew up in Colleyville, so it's a true honor to take the education that I've got as an engineer and the experiences I've gotten and bring it to this great city with great staff and amazing leadership. So thank you all.
So I'm proud to have Nathan and Daniel on my staff. Nathan, as he said, is a graduate from the schools here in Colleyville, and so I would like to encourage all of the youth of Colleyville to explore engineering through STEM classes and consider engineering as their career path so that they can come help us improve Colleyville in the future.
Well, thanks for having me. My name is Daniel Ishua, one of the development engineer with the City of Colleyville. Actually, Colleyville offers me the opportunity to learn and actually also problem solving. So thank you.
Hi, Ryan Dufour with TSB Mid-Cities, and we just want to again thank the City of Colleyville for the recognition. We really enjoy and pride ourselves in protecting the health and safety and welfare of the public, and again, we appreciate the spotlight tomorrow.
I'm Katie McCarty, also with the DFW Mid-Cities chapter, and we kind of always joke that engineers don't really get the recognition unless something goes wrong and something bad happens. So it's really refreshing to get some recognition, and I'm very proud to be a part of such a great, honorable community of professional engineers.
Great.
Well, thank y'all so much for y'all that came in, for sure, for being here and coming and everything that you do. And you guys do a great job all the time. We really appreciate what you do in Colleyville. We really do. And we don't recognize you enough. So thank you. Appreciate it all. Let's give them Gotta get a picture. Ray. Yeah, we're gonna have to bunch you up here somehow, so. Yeah. So it is. Yeah. There you go, come on up. Can you get us?
Yeah, I got you. Ready? All right, 1, 2, 3.
Thank you guys for coming, I really appreciate it. Thank you all. Now, give me a second, this always knocks out my hearing aids.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I got them in. Get organized again. Okay, we are now moving to agenda item 4. This is the consent, reading, and public hearing. This is Resolution R-20-4521, a resolution approving city council action under consent items at the regular city council meeting of August 4, 2020. Whereas city council has taken action on certain items on the agenda under consent items. Now therefore be it resolved by the city council of the city of Colleyville, Texas, Section 1, that the agenda decisions approved by city council action under consent items as follows are hereby adopted. A, approval of a construction services agreement with HQS Construction LLC for the John McCain Hike and Bike Trail Project in an amount not to exceed $748,199.50 and authorizing the city manager to execute the agreement. B, approval of an advanced funding agreement for congestion mitigation and air quality improvement funding for the reconstruction of Glade Road at Bluebonnet Drive intersection and authorizing the city manager to execute the agreement. C, approval of an advanced funding agreement for bridge replacement or rehabilitation off the state system funding for the reconstruction of the Jackson Drive Bridge over Little Bear Creek and authorizing the city manager to execute the agreement. And it is so resolved. There you are. Didn't see you.
I was expecting to take a little longer, but, all right. Good evening, Mayor, council members. Ray Silvarez, Director of Public Works. I'll be speaking to the next 3 items. The first one is the John McCain Hike and Bike Trail. So this project includes a 10-foot wide proposed concrete hike and bike trail with the exception of an 8-foot section right as it passes the creek between just east of Pleasant Run on John McCain. That section as it crosses the culvert would be an 8-foot section. So we're looking at doing 3 segments, approximately 3,300 linear feet, starting from Stillwater Court, which is all the way to the left on the screen on top, and going to the Cotton Belt Trail spur that's it's highlighted right, it's just east of Pleasant Run Road where the red goes to green. I know it's kind of hard to see there. Along the way, we'll be upgrading some stormwater infrastructure, some culverts, and some fence will be relocated as well in this project. We did get some heavy interest on this project. Let me see if I can get it. As you can see, those are the amount of bidders that bid on this project. We had 18 bidders. We did have quite a few to choose from, and it ranges from $724,000 all the way down to $1.3 million. Before I keep going, let me kind of break down a little bit of the costs here. I have it broken down into 3 segments for this project. Mainly the paving part for the sidewalk. That came out to a grand total of $457,464. And the drainage improvement for this part was $205,735,000. So that kind of equates to, it's not just pure sidewalk, there is some drainage improvements in there with some other miscellaneous parts in it, components in it. So back to where I was with the contractor selection, we did check the references for the low bidder, and we did find out that this low bidder is brand new at this construction part, and that the second bidder was more equipped and has had a good track record of doing constructions of the hike and bike trail. So The consultant engineer recommended we go with him, and we confer. So staff recommends approval with the second low bidder. Any questions on that one?
Just one minor thing, want everyone to know that at least to construct this, we're going to have to cut down a lot of trees, about 56 trees. But I already talked to Ray about this, and you indicate that when the construction is all done, number one, you may not cut down all those 56 trees if
Correct.
they're close to the walkway.
Correct. Our strategy will be to, if the tree has an opportunity to make it, we will leave it in place and try to see if it will make it. And if it doesn't, then we'll handle that at that time. But our approach is going to be to give every tree an opportunity unless it's dead center in it.
Yeah.
And
I just wanted people to realize, we definitely want the sidewalk, and it's important for the community. And sometimes when that happens, these trees have grown up there, many of them wild, I think.
Yeah.
I'm not sure many of them were planted. But just to let people know, it's going to change. Of course, the city has done a great job of adding trees in places where we need them.
Absolutely.
So we're not just going to cut them down and not worry about it.
Absolutely.
So.
And one thing I need to highlight as well is, as I stated earlier, it's from Stillwater Court, but what truly this trail will do is it's going to connect McPherson Park all the way from the west side of town all the way to the Cottonville Trail, and it's going to be on the south side of John McCain. Denoted by the red and green is what we'll be filling. The red is what we'll be filling in to connect to the green. And then if you look to the north of those red and green lines, you have what's highlighted in yellow, and it's the existing smaller sidewalks around that side. So we're not doing both sides of the corridor, we're just doing the south side only. And yes, we're trying to minimize the tree impact.
But there still will be a sequential all the way from the park on the west all the way to the trail.
That's what this project will complete, yes, sir.
Yeah, that's great.
And also to 26, which is then
True.
sidewalks all the way down.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely.
Yes.
On both sides on 26.
Right.
That's correct.
Okay. Anything else?
No.
All right, we'll move on to the next agenda item. So segueing into what the fire department has done, who got a grant money. The city of Colleyville also has received some grant money from the North Central Texas Council of Government through TxDOT, and so what they call the Events Funding Agreement. And so the first one we have on tap here is for the intersection of Glade Road and Bluebonnet. This was the staff applied for North Central Texas Council of Government CMAQ, which stands for Congestion Mitigation and Air Quality Improvement. And this in this project, one of the components that that allowed us to receive the grant was we're going to eliminate the stop sign there, the three-way stop sign at the intersection, lower that intersection to allow for site visibility, meaning that there will be less cars stopping and going, which will reduce the mitigation and air congestion. Yeah. And so, or help with the air quality. So that's one of the reasons we did get this grant here. And so this project includes turn lanes on Glade Road and on Bluebonnet Drive and at Stafford, retaining walls and pedestrian improvements along with this project. The grant was approved for an estimated cost of $2.1 million, and 80% will be federal funding and 20% will be local funding. So our total local participation is estimated at $814,500.
And Ray, that's funding that would have been paid for by the city as part of the Glade Road project otherwise.
Correct. So let me take a step back. This is we have already bid and awarded the contract for Glade Road stemming from State Highway 26 to Pool. Yeah. And we did pull this portion out so that we can allow for the grant money to come, because if we did allow it to be part of the whole project would have to go up in standards as far as federal guidelines go. Yeah. So we still wanted the money. We segmented it out of there, and now we're getting closer to getting that money released. The COG expects to have that money ready by October 1st.
Okay, good.
Okay. Any questions on that one? All right, we'll go on to the next one.
Hey, Ray, just real quick, just a quick note, I apologize.
Sure.
We've talked about this before, but this was a project that was already planned, already funded, already kind of, in the design, if you will. And so the engineering team and the public works team went out and applied for a whole group of grant-funded possible projects. Glade Road sidewalks, this intersection, the roundabout. There was a lot of different things that were applied for. And this was one of those in the hopes that we could be able to secure grant funding to mitigate the impact of the project on the city. And if we had to choose a project, we would never have guessed this would be the one that was funded. And so this is, again, a testament to that effort that we're going to continue to pursue grant funding wherever we can. And if we get it, that's great. If we don't, it's not going to stop us from moving forward and completing our projects. But when this type of funding is provided, by the time this is done, that'll be $2 million that we'll have in capital funds that can do further improvements within this community that's provided from, in this case, federal gas tax. So,
Absolutely.
fantastic.
Yeah, great initiative, $2 million.
Yeah, and this is not the first one. I mean, we also have one at Cheeksburger
Yes, sir.
for there, and several others. We just talked about a grant here for the radios. So all of those things are things that we don't have to use your taxes for, that come from taxes someplace, but in this case, not from Colleyville, Texas.
Absolutely. All right, and then we have another one as well. One thing I did forget to mention on the other one is that the city of Colleyville is designing the intersection for that project, and we'll be taking it out to bids and advertising. On this one that I'm about to discuss, it's going to be fully designed and constructed by TxDOT. So it's got a little bit of a different mechanism here. So on August 29, 2019, the Texas Department of Transportation informed the city of Colleyville that the Jackson Drive Bridge at Little Bear Creek had been included and approved in the Off-State System Federal Aid Highway Bridge Replacement and Rehabilitation Program. Also, the engineering department was informed of a project waiver opportunity to defer our participation costs by doing additional bridge/culvert projects work within our city limits. Well, we brought this before council maybe a couple months ago to get this money here, which would have been $284,000. We committed it to one of our other projects in the Pleasant Run Road to do culverts improvements there. So on this one here, the state's going to fully 100% fund it because we're using the funds that we would do for another project.
Great.
So, let's see, make sure. So it's $122,230 that we're the 10% that we would be spending. So this one here is going to be fully 100%. The state will cover it and take care of the design, the advertising, and the construction of this project, which has yet to start. As soon as we get this AFA going, they will start procuring engineering firm and start getting the process going. So it will be about 2 to 3 years out before we start seeing any construction going on.
So
I know, go ahead.
So you just said they're going to pay for all of it.
They're going to take care, what they said here is 100% they will take care of it on this one here.
And
Yeah,
Mayor, just if I
that's a-
could, it goes without saying that this was wonderful at 90%
Yeah.
with us funding 10%.
Right.
But then Ray, you and your team finding a way to do another project in town with 10% that would qualify so that we get even more improvement and can invest that funding in now 2 projects instead of 1 is a very creative process that is much appreciated. It's that extra effort that you guys are putting forth to make a difference in getting, these $100,000 here, $100,000 there pretty soon. We're talking about a lot of money, and it is appreciated, and please keep going. We're looking forward to the day when you stand up here and tell us you got our first trail grant, which.
That was around the corner, we'll see. But yes, the engineering department did find a way to get creative, as you stated, Jerry. And
Now, this is impressive to me because, that bridge needs work. It's been there for years. I literally, my own personal thought that I think but don't necessarily say was wondering if we would ever be able to get to redo that bridge. So this is great.
Yep. And the deferment of the cost has been approved by
Yeah.
TxDOT, so it is 100%. And I would need to mention that, yes, we are concerned about the wildlife that's in the area and also the trees, so it will be something we'll be working closely with TxDOT to ensure that we mitigate whatever we can to help that area as well. So on that one, staff recommends approval.
Just a quick question on that, Ray. Since they're designing it, we will have very little input, right, other than just checking what they're doing. They don't plan to raise the road in that area, correct?
They will, they're gonna try to address, they're not gonna address the 100-year flood
They
elevation.
can't, yeah.
They can't, they were gonna try to get as close to the 50 is what they're trying to aim, which is a lot better than what we have now.
Oh, absolutely.
And there is gonna be conversation back and forth between staff and their staff to make sure we get it to the quality and standard of Colleyville. And I would like to see it go to the 100-year flood elevation, but we'll see as we get going. This is kind of a new one for the city, but we will work closely with TxDOT to ensure that.
Possibly to raise on both ends then?
Yes, we'll just have to see how far back those limits go.
Right.
And fortunately for that area, there's not too many properties that are going to be impacted by it, structures. And so I think it could work. It's just a matter of once we get the survey and start looking at the water surface elevation in that area, we'll see what happens.
Ray, sorry, Mr.
Wonderful.
One of the challenges, though, is that there's a kind of a tributary that travels south along the road, and so the floodplain is elongated. And so that may cause you to have a longer bridge and elevation change, which is a little more complicated. So the fact that TxDOT is paying for it is fantastic. Because if there's ever a project that was going to come in somehow overestimate, I think this is going to be the one. And so that's wonderful to know that they're funding it.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Sure is.
Do you know any parameters of the bridge, like width or anything?
I mean, it accommodates the two-way traffic, so I'm gonna assume at a minimum it's 24 feet width, but that's about as far.
Will it have any
Is it correct?
capacity for a trail to go, or a pedestrian passage on one?
You know, that is something we can definitely work with, because I know with the Whitechapel Bridge over there on South Lake, it wasn't a part of it, and then we
But we're
talked to
gonna
them,
have that.
and it was added.
Yeah,
as this one. So,
that'd be good.
yeah, there's still quite some opportunities for us to
Yeah.
throw some other input in there.
Yeah, the capacity. Yeah.
All right, that's it. Thank you.
That's great.
Thank you.
Very good.
Excellent.
So any other discussion or questions before I go to the public hearing? Not, I'm going to open the public hearing. Do you have a card? Kathy Hadley?
Kathy Hadley, 204 Timberline Drive North, to represent myself. I have several comments, on the first one, on 4A, the hike and bike trail. My concern is, I was gonna bring it up, it's this in comments, I thought I'm gonna bring it up now. Coming up, going across, on Bransford, many times I have come across people who've got the three-way stops there at LD Lockett and Bransford. And so you're busy with traffic and who's going next, and then there's a train, and so it's time to go, so you hurry across, and then this walker walks right out in front of you, me, and I was like, oh my gosh, I almost hit somebody. And this happened more than once. And these people are walking around like they've lost their head. They need to respect automobiles. They think it's like California. If you're a walker, you watch out for me. Well, you know, cars are bigger than people. And people need to be respectful of automobiles. And we're doing our best trying to keep an eye on everybody and when we can go and whatever. So that trail really concerns me. If we make it bigger and wider for bikes to get on, it's an accident waiting to happen. Y'all need to think of something. Somebody's gonna get killed. If it's not a walker, it's gonna be a kid on a bike zooming across, and the poor person who hits them. And it's a very, very serious problem. I live in that area. I have had my own, and I know speed. It's just that when it's my turn to go, I go. And people just go lollygagging out there right out in front of me. And I'm busy watching for a train and traffic. And it's just a really dangerous situation. So I would appreciate y'all coming up with something that the walkers, the bike riders, have to have a light or something. I don't know. Or I have seen some intersections, you have flashing lights. If there is a walker or a biker or something, you press a button and they have
Yeah.
flashing lights.
And that location does have flashing lights when you press a button.
Okay, well, then
And a
they,
stop sign.
And a, yeah, stop
but,
sign.
but then
Yeah.
they have to press the
not
button.
You have to
Yeah,
press
yeah.
it, correct.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
so it's a very dangerous area. I just want
Yeah.
to make y'all
Yeah.
aware of it. And do I go ahead and talk about another thing?
Is it on one of these items Ray just talked about?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, the other one is okay, LD, Bluebonnet. It
Yeah.
really, really, really makes me sad that hill is being taken down. It's part of Colleyville's heritage. It's part of the atmosphere, the character of Colleyville, the rolling hills. And I know that there are, and Bobby's told me there are residents there on Glade. They want to have that, and they've talked to Bobby, and by golly, can't get out of their driveway because of all the traffic. I'm very sorry about that. I understand. It's ruining the atmosphere of Colleyville. I mean, it's just a neat little part of the atmosphere of Colleyville, the country atmosphere. And the other one is the bridge on Jackson. That bridge has been there since I was a kid riding my horse across it years ago. And I'm still driving my car over it. I know a lot of the wildlife does travel Bear Creek right in there, and we get a lot of construction going on. They could do some damage to the wildlife, and that area does major flooding in there. It could tell you all stories about how deep it's gotten past the creek area, just in that whole bottom area, that floodplain area. But whatever work has to be done, we need to get some very conscientious people who are going to be doing the work to save what country. That's a neat little country bridge and country area going down Jackson. The trees going over the road. It's just a nice little country road. And it's going to be changed once we do the work on the bridge. And the wildlife's going to be changed. So I hate to see anything done. I mean, does it really need fixing? I mean, we don't get that much traffic. I mean, it has picked up, but I would like to see less evasive work to be done. I don't want to see a wider bridge. It's going to just be more traffic. I don't want more traffic blowing through Colleyville. I want less evasive work done, and just keep the bridge the size it is. Don't encourage more heavy traffic and faster speeding cars. Less evasive work is what I'd appreciate. Thank you.
Thank you. Have no other cards. Anyone else wish to speak on any of these items? I see no one indicating, so I'm going to close the public hearing. Public hearing is closed, so a motion is in order.
I move adoption of Resolution R-20-4521.
I'll second.
Have a motion to approve by Councilmember Dodson, a second by Councilmember Kelly. Would you open the vote, please? So it's still not showing.
Everyone registered their vote. Would you like me to read that? It's not showing on the screen.
I'm sorry, can you read it?
Yes.
Go ahead, yeah.
Richard Newton, aye. Tammy Nakamura, aye. Kathy Weed, aye. George Johnson, aye. Chuck Kelly, aye. Kelly Riggin, aye.
Okay, so the motion is approved, therefore the resolution is approved. Thank you. We'll move to agenda item 5A. This is second reading and public hearing of ordinance O-20-2126, approval of the fiscal year 2021 Colleyville Crime Control and Prevention District budget. How many times is this?
This is number 4, sir. I appreciate everybody going along here and acting enthused to hear this.
I've got a couple of new questions for you,
Oh,
Steve.
great. I'm ready to go. Okay, good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Chief Miller, the Chief of Police here in Colleyville. This evening's presentation will provide an overview of the Colleyville Crime Control and Prevention District and the proposed FY21 budget. We have provided you with a couple of documents in addition to this presentation that contain the fund details. As you know, the Crime District was established in 1999 by local voters for an initial 5-year period of time. The voters renewed the district for an additional 20-year period of time in 2003, and it will be eligible for renewal again in 2023. The district is authorized and governed by Section 363 of the Local Government Code and the Local Board of Directors. The district's funding is specifically dedicated to law enforcement and is an important component of our ability to maintain our status as one of the safest cities in Texas. The remaining debt for this fund was paid off last fiscal year, so this fund is debt-free this year, and we're excited about that. We're thankful for the fund balance that this freed up, as we will need it for the new CAD and records management system that we have previously discussed in detail. Instead of covering every single item, I'm going to provide some highlights on the items that we think you are most interested in, but definitely welcome your comments on any particular item. Over time, this fund has transitioned into an operational fund that, in coordination with our general fund budget, supports the operations of the police department. This is really important as we think it more closely ties the half-cent sales tax to tangible police services that directly impact those that live, work, and visit Colleyville. Let me provide some updates on some initiatives that were new last year. So we have implemented the new sergeant position into our organization and have filled it with Sergeant Nelson. We've also implemented and filled the part-time accreditation coordinator position and filled it with Jason McGinn. And let me pause here for a second to talk about a topic of accreditation, which you've fully supported and we continue to fund through the CCCPD budget. With the recent national conversation around police reform, I wanted to highlight several relevant points about our policies, procedures, operations that were a direct result of your support and funding through the CCCPD budget. Because we are students of our profession and constantly looking at what we need to be doing, we proactively identified the need for and have implemented things like body cameras, de-escalation, crisis intervention training, less lethal weapons like tasers, and pursuit accreditation, all recently approved by this body. As you know, we're an agency that is accredited by the Texas Police Chiefs Association and recognized as having policies and procedures that meet or exceed all of the identified best practices in law enforcement. Less than 10% of all law enforcement agencies in Texas have achieved accreditation by the Texas Police Chiefs Association, and we're proud of that. We're also in the middle of pursuing national accreditation through COLEA, which is the Commission on Accreditation for Law Enforcement Agencies as well. While accreditation does not guarantee an agency won't make a mistake, it does, however, ensure that the agency has studied the list of critical issues, which I'll discuss shortly, developed policies and procedures to address them, and has systems in place to identify and correct problems. These 12 critical areas that are addressed by accreditation are as follows: use of force, care, custody, and restraint of prisoners, selection and hiring, complaint and internal affairs management, dealing with the mentally ill and developmentally disabled, sexual harassment, domestic violence and agency employee domestic conduct, off-duty conduct, narcotics, SWAT, and high-risk warrant service, property and evidence management, emergency vehicle operation and pursuit, and search, seizure, and arrest. So those are all covered by accreditation. In the context of the national conversation on police reform, this means that our current policies and procedures have specifically, and I'm going to list things that we specifically address, our current policies and procedures ban chokeholds and strangleholds. They currently require training in and the use of de-escalation techniques to minimize situations where force must be used. Our current policies and procedures include a duty to intervene when an officer sees something wrong or excessive force being used. They ban shooting at moving vehicles. They require a use of force report to be completed when any force is threatened or used by an officer against an individual. And this report is reviewed by the entire chain of command to include the Chief of Police, Internal Affairs, and training for disciplinary, coaching, and mentoring opportunities. Our current policies and procedures also require the collection of demographic and other data from every traffic stop and search that are analyzed annually and published in our racial profiling report. In addition, we requested funding for and implemented body-worn cameras last year. Our officers are required to activate their body-worn cameras and in-car cameras for every citizen interaction or call for service. Our supervisors are required by policy to review a specific number of random videos each and every month. I also regularly review body camera footage on a weekly basis to see how our officers are treating the public and handling calls. Furthermore, last budget year, we requested and received from this body additional recurring funding specifically designated for de-escalation and crisis intervention training for all of our officers. With those funds, we purchased a virtual reality training platform that embeds de-escalation into every scenario, and we sent one of our lieutenants to ICAT training, which is Integrating Communications Assessment and Tactics, a train-the-trainer school to provide our officers with additional tools in dealing with folks in crisis who are not armed with a firearm. Last year, you also approved funding for a new early warning system and internal affairs investigative system. This system takes into account many performance factors, complaints, use of force reports, etc., to proactively identify officers who may be showing some problematic behaviors and provide intervention recommendations to our supervisors before an incident occurs. Finally, as you've been briefed several times on the new CAD and records management project with our partners, Keller, South Lake, and Grapevine, we are still in the vendor selection process. We have 3 top vendors, and we're going through reviewing other client sites where they've done installations right now, and we actually selected all 3 of them to move forward in this background process. And so that's ongoing now. We've had several meetings just this week. We hope to have a final selection before the end of the fiscal year and expect about an 18-month implementation timeline. As we talked before, this has transitioned into an operating fund, and we are now funding 12 police officers, 2 public service officers, and our accreditation coordinator out of the CCCPD budget. This continues our goal of connecting the half-cent sales tax with tangible officers and employees working the street. As the fund begins to stabilize after the large CAD and records management system project is completed, you will likely hear me asking if we shouldn't be funding more officers with this fund balance as we try to maximize the impact of this fund on those who live, work, and shop here. We continue to fund all of our vehicle purchases and replacements with the CCCPD budget, and we've been utilizing the new city-wide agreement with Enterprise for all of our needs there. Our portion of SWAT training and equipment are funded throughout this budget, through this budget. With all of the social unrest going on that we've read about in the last few months in many of our neighboring big cities, we've identified an equipment and training gap that we will be looking to fill in the near future. While our SWAT team is equipped with the latest of protective equipment, our officers could benefit from some additional protective gear and crowd control training. This falls into the category of things that we hope to never have to use, but we want to ensure our folks are equipped for the possibilities of events happening here or in a neighboring city where we may be called upon to assist. The big ones on here, early warning system and annual training, were new last year, and we continue as ongoing initiatives. The final point here in this one is just a reminder from last year that we moved the capital expenses for facility maintenance out of the CCCPD budget and into the city's capital improvement plan for consistency across the city. We've also talked about CALI accreditation and pursuing that as well. That's on this slide. Using 5-year projections, staff has made a concerted effort to create a long-term planning and forecasting for this fund and the department as a whole. Current expenditures funded by CCCPD are projected to continue, and we feel comfortable with this plan and truly appreciate the spirit of cooperation we received from the city manager's office throughout this budget process. This budget provides the needed equipment, technology, staffing to allow us to continue to provide the exceptional level of service our community desires and deserves. And at this time, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have for us, and wanted to thank you for the opportunity to talk to you about our budget needs tonight.
Great.
Chief, I asked this, I think, the last time you presented this, but it may be a little bit confusing, early warning.
Yes.
Sometimes you think of early warning as radar or something. In this case, the early warning is looking for situations where police officers may have exceeded our standards. Is that correct?
That's correct. It's actually part of the CALIA accreditation standard. So part of achieving accreditation, national accreditation, is ensuring that we have some early warning capability. And that early warning capability, that system takes in all kinds of data, like number of complaints that an officer has received, activity, uses of force, those kinds of things. And it begins to look at holistically at an officer and to identify potential issues with that officer before they manifest themselves out into a big problem. And so that system will continue to present our supervisors with recommendations on interventions. It'll also identify those who we may need to have a little extra eyes on, more coaching, more mentoring, that kind of thing. But it's a safety mechanism. It's an insurance policy for the city, and I think it's a best practice.
It's great, and I appreciate all the effort that you all and the police department have put in place to keep us safe.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions?
I appreciate your briefing. You did a very good job, as you always do, very thorough. Covered a lot of territory, a lot of ground. I hope our citizens heard that and listened. I think it's worth giving that presentation or components of that every chance you get to our citizens. I want to compliment you. You're providing great leadership to our police force. I want to compliment the force. I'm very proud of you guys, all of you. When all this started with after the George Floyd incident, as I've said this before, but it's worth saying again, I received many emails and comments and letters from people, citizens, not just from Colleyville, but all over the place. And they seemed to evolve into kind of a standard set of questions, which were quite lengthy. And I'm very proud of the fact that you guys, and you went through them actually in your presentation, I hope people picked up on that, have addressed every single one of those questions that were put forth. And you had already done it actually before being asked to do it. And so that's huge. That demonstrates tons of leadership. That demonstrates the proper philosophy and thought process and moving forward in the right direction. And so I'm proud of you guys. We all are proud of you. The city is proud of you. We're a great police force. And you know, that's why we're one of the safest cities in Texas, and I think we'll continue to be that way. But thank you very much.
Yes, sir. We have a phenomenal staff, a phenomenal team that's sold out for service, that truly believe in impartial and just and fair policing.
Yeah.
So it's an easy place to work, and it's been my pleasure to serve here for the last 2.5 years.
Great. Any other comments or questions? Very good.
Just one compliment, Chief. You've done a fantastic job. Just curious, where did you do your undergraduate work at?
Yeah.
Texas A&M University.
Wow.
I had no idea. Sorry.
I told you, wrong chief.
Yes.
I'm totally teasing. I love this.
I love our little rivalry.
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm going to open a public hearing. So you too can provide accolades to our chief.
No cards, Mayor.
I have no cards. Anyone wish to speak on any of this or ask any questions? See no one indicating that, because he covered it so well, there are no questions. Closed public hearing. Fourth time, that's right.
I'll move to approve ordinance O-20-2126.
I'll second.
Have a motion to approve the ordinance by Councilmember Rigney, a second by Councilmember Kelly. So Mark just came up and told me we have an internet issue. That's why our voting system is not working properly. Christine, do you want me to do it manually, or how would you like to do it?
Whatever your preference is, Mayor, you can.
Okay, so does that record for you?
Yes, it does.
Okay, so let's do that. Go ahead and, so it just won't show. So what we'll do is we'll vote, it'll record it, she'll stand up and tell us what the result was. So it's just not getting out to the database, okay. Got it?
All present voted aye.
Okay, so we have a unanimous approval of the motion, therefore the ordinance is approved. Very good. We'll now move to agenda item 6A. This is first reading and public hearing of ordinance O-20-2127, consideration of a special use permit for a daycare center on lots 9R and 10R, Block 1 of the Winding Creek Addition located at 6412 and 6416 Colleyville Boulevard, case ZC 20-0015.
Thank you. Ben Briner, Director of Community Development. As you stated, this is a special use permit request for a daycare center, and this is within the Winding Creek development at 6412 and 6416 Colleyville Boulevard. This is an aerial site photo of the site. It is on the back side within the development, just off of Colleyville Boulevard. There is a horseshoe internal driveway system that they will have access off of, as you can see in the picture.
Yeah.
The new wedding event venue is just to the north, also within the same development.
Yeah.
Current zoning is PUDC, Planning and Development Commercial. This is intended primarily as an office and retail development, and specifically office uses along the back portion and retail uses along Colleyville Boulevard. And I'll have some more details here in just a bit. The designation is that it is part of the Colleyville Boulevard corridor, which is where we anticipate to see our commercial and office and retail type uses. Here's the pictometry photo of the site, just a different perspective. You can again see that internal drive that they will have access off of. It is those two lots there in the center that they're proposing to locate the use at. So this is, these are some excerpts from the existing PUD ordinance that was approved back in 2009. So again, the intended use is for office and retail. Specifically, the office uses along the back properties and then retail along the frontage along Colleyville Boulevard. There was a total plan for office to equal about 34,515 square feet. These two lots were planned for two 6,000 square foot office buildings, so 12,000 square feet of office. The proposal is for a 10,000 square foot daycare facility. And then shall be single story unless mixed with retail uses, so that would really only apply on properties fronting Colleyville Boulevard. As far as lighting, there is a standard that it shall not exceed 0.5 foot candles as measured from the property line. With landscaping, there is a 15-foot landscape buffer requirement, and within that area, along the entire boundary, a total of 43 wax myrtles planted on 15-foot centers. The applicant, the proposal does identify their share of that. And then a 25-foot building setback required for all buildings from that western property line adjacent to the residential uses. As far as fencing and screening, there is a requirement for an 8-foot masonry screening wall along the entire western boundary. That is already constructed. That was put in by the developer actually as part of the wedding venue. So that does exist along the entire boundary currently. And then hours of operation, this will come into play a little bit more on the next item, but I'll also be presenting it. But the hours of operation for the office type uses shall not exceed 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. The companion item, which is the next item, the applicant is proposing to modify that slightly to be 6:30 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. Monday through Friday for their specific use only. So assuming that this
receives approval, they are asking for that as well.
A question on lighting. I noticed in that PUD, you see you were reviewing, it said a half-a-foot candle as measured at the property line. Don't we have another ordinance that requires 0 from a commercial going into residential? Am I reading that right?
I think it maintained the 0.5, but
Does it?
I can try and double check.
Okay, I was just curious.
Okay.
I thought when we did the football field, or baseball, I forget which it was. We did talk about 0-foot
Yeah.
candle at the property line.
And I believe that was because it was added with the PUD zoning that applied for the Covenant Christian Academy. I think that PUD zoning required 0. And I do see that where properties with a residential use or zoning other than agricultural are adjacent to a commercial site, the maximum lighting intensity shall not exceed 0.5-foot candles. So I think that was specific to that zoning
I think we
case.
may need to review that.
So the uses for a daycare center, and as you can see, as outlined with the Land Development Code, this type of use does require a special use permit approved in our CPO professional office district, as well as all of our other commercial districts, neighborhood commercial, village retail, shopping center, and highway commercial.
Okay.
So this is not what is presented before you today, but I wanted to provide it for some context. This item did go before the Planning and Zoning Commission back in May, at their May 11th meeting. And with this design, it did show that the playground areas were proposed on the western side of the building, so between the daycare building and the residential properties to the west. And based on some feedback that they received at that meeting, they could have brought it forward to the city council, but what they rather elected to do was to withdraw, make the changes, and then bring it back to the Planning and Zoning Commission for their review and recommendation. And so this is the plan before you today. So essentially what they've done is switch the locations. There was some comments as far as noise, and so this was one attempt to try and mitigate the noise concern.
I have a challenge to that. The playground to the south looks to me like it's in exactly the same place it was.
It is scooted over more to the east, but it still is definitely
It's
right there.
It's as
It's
close
south.
as it was before. And in fact, that whole playground is open, right? The square is exactly where it was before, or the
Yeah, I believe that-
rectangle.
I believe you're right, because
But that whole playground is still adjacent to the housing.
I'm going to have the applicant answer that question. I think that there are some fencings there that does not allow the kids to go all the way to the wall as it did in the past.
Well, they're 25 feet away. I mean, okay, we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, but the building is at the 25-foot setback requirement per the
I understand.
So the changes, so the building has been shifted to the west. It still does maintain the 25-foot building setback requirement. The two of the playgrounds were relocated to be on the east side or in front of the building. As far as previous tree preservation, the previous plan only identified 9 trees to be removed. With this shifting, that increases that up to 11 trees. And we now have a photometric plan that was included, and it does verify that they would be complying with that 0.5-foot candle requirement. And I do have that plan. It has also been provided in your packet. Here are the building elevations. I have some color ones as well. They do comply with our minimum articulation requirements. They do have some stone accents. But the applicant can talk about the design on the building and what they've done.
Hey, Ben, before you leave the elevation, just one point that I think is worth noting, that when the playground areas came to the east side of the building, they dramatically, in my opinion, changed the look of the front of the building. took away, I think, the architecture. And so you see the fence and the playground, you don't see the building. And so I think that may have been a solution to try to address the adjoining residents' concern, but I think it presented a different problem that really goes to the quality of the look of the front of the building. And so I just wanted to bring that up because I think some of the renderings don't include that, and therefore it's worthy of mentioning.
We do have the landscape plan. They are in compliance with our minimum requirements. And this is a photo of the masonry screening wall that was installed last year. It does run along the entire western boundary of the Winding Creek development.
Ben, how tall is that wall? 8 foot?
8 feet. I do have the site drainage and grading plans for your review. There is a creek there to the southeast. The drainage is being directed to the creek system. This is the tree preservation plan. This was the previous tree preservation plan, and as I switch to the next slide, you'll see there was 2 trees that are green on this slide that turn to yellow. Those are the 2 trees, and that's based on the building being shifted to the west.
What does that red circle mean? I can't read the.
Yeah, it's an unprotected
Taken out.
species. It is to be removed.
It's got to be removed, right?
Yeah.
It's to be removed, but it's an unprotected species.
Yeah.
I think it's the Osage orange, which I think is, I forget what type that is.
And what is the blue? There's 2 blue ones.
Those are, I believe those are the ones that they are intending to keep. They are in the marginal area. Actually, let me. No, they are also to be removed. I believe that those are just not within the footprint. I think the yellow were to highlight the ones that were within the footprint of the building. So here's the photometric plan. I reviewed the numbers along that boundary, and it ranges from 0.0 to 0.2 foot candles. Just for comparison's sake, this was something that was brought up by the Planning Zoning Commission. We did look at the Creme de la Creme site. This is the site plan from 1999. It is a much larger facility, about twice as large, and the property itself is much larger as well. Here's some aerial photos to see the difference. I tried to maintain the scale so you can see the size difference.
Okay.
So 1.47 acres versus 3.48.
What's the distance on that one? I know that it looks like there's a fence or a separation from the residential and the playground. How far is that on the Creme de la Creme?
I measured it. I think it ranges from about 50 feet at the narrowest point and up to 80 and 90 feet there as you go to the north.
And is that part of the Creme de la Creme property, that
Yes.
triangle? Okay.
The whole area is, yeah.
Yes. And here's the data for Creme de la Creme. So they do have hours of operation, 6:30 to 6:30, Monday through Friday. It is a 20,000 square foot facility, all of the different amenities that they provide for the kids. And they have 331 students. And we looked that information up off their website, so that may be the staff as well, but if you take maybe 50 staff, that's still 280 students. And this is proposed at 190 students, so a much larger facility. We did send our notices out to surrounding property owners within 500 feet. We received 2 letters back in the mail, which were provided in your packet, both in opposition. And staff did recommend approval. Obviously, there are some concerns with how to handle the noise, and there were some drainage concerns that were brought up by some of the residents as well that spoke at the Planning and Zoning Commission. But the Planning and Zoning Commission did recommend approval with the recommendation that speed limit signs be placed on the property, pretty much up against that internal drive. And then also that they work with the surrounding property owners to resolve any drainage issues. I think with the installation of the wall, they weren't able to get the grading right, or maybe some strategic openings so that the water can get onto the Winding Creek area, so they can get down to the creek. So they've committed to doing that.
Okay.
And with that, I can answer any questions.
Yeah, Ben, on the drainage, it's very clear from the drainage plan, or the drainage, whatever you call it, diagram, that a lot of water is flowing from the houses down through this plot. And I didn't see any kind of, again, I'm not an engineer, but I didn't see any way that they were planning to move that water through or under or around the building.
So if it's okay, I'd like to have the applicant answer that. They've designed.
That's
the
fine.
site.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
Applicant here? Okay.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Mhm.
Stephen Brown, 6612 Josephine Street, Plano, Texas, 75024.
Hi.
I'm with Butcher and Brown Development. I'm the developer as well as the general contractor on this project.
Okay.
We can go ahead and start presentation. So Kitty Academy is probably the third largest daycare facility company in the country itself.
Could you answer my question, please?
Oh, I'm sorry.
My question had to do about drainage.
Okay.
There are, if you look at the drainage plan, or the drainage for that area,
How do I pull that back?
you see significant amount of water has to flow through that wall.
Correct,
And
yes.
so I want to know how you're planning to get that water through the wall so that it'll have no impact on the houses in the back.
Okay, I will show on the drainage side, the fencing, which was previously discussed. You can see on this current photo, am I displaying? Oh, there we go. So you can see below the fence, there's some foliage that's built up over the years. When this wall was built, it had spacing, as you can see on the far right photo. And where the gentleman that expressed some concern about the drainage, actually, someone came out and tunneled underneath his portion of the fence to allow drainage. So when we go in and when we grade the lot, we will create the space below the fence, or recreate it, if you will. And running on the western side of our property, there's at least 3 inlets to catch that water on the backside of the building and channel it around the building itself. And so you're correct that the drainage is coming from the west to the east. We'll capture that. Also, our facility is 3 feet below the wall, the foundation. So you have the grading inlets, then you have a retaining wall, and so that water's going to be moved around the building itself.
Okay, that answers my question. I appreciate it. I just didn't see that.
Oh, yeah.
I couldn't see it on the diagram. Thank you. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
Start over again?
Yeah, go
Okay.
ahead.
Sorry. So Kitty Academy, this is their 30th year of operation. They have nearly 250 sites around the country. They have several of their academies are nationally accredited by the National Association of Education of Young Children, which many facilities have. They serve children 6 weeks to 6 years old throughout the day, and then school-age children above that up to age 12 with the after-school program or summer program. Part of the Kitty Academy operations, the owner, it's an on-site owner. This gentleman currently lives in Frisco, but will be moving to the area and to Colleyville as well. He has young children, will be enrolled in schools here. It's accredited professional development training for its teachers. It's got an ongoing franchise training program, and then operational guidance for the staff and ownership of the franchisee. So some of the building operations, it's got secured building entrance, and we'll talk extensively about that. There was a lot of safety concerns during the P&Z discussions. All the play areas are fenced in as well, so nobody can access either the playgrounds or the building itself without going through some security mechanism. There's specific student-teacher ratios that have to meet state code. It's just not, tons of kids in a room with just one teacher. There are drop-off and pickup procedures in place to help with traffic flow and parking. The hour of operation, as the presenter mentioned, we're hoping to get a 6:30 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. in conjunction with local competition. There's vehicle protection around the building itself, so somebody that's in the parking lot, if they accidentally hit the accelerator, there'll be bollards in place or structure within the fence itself to help protect the children or anybody on the playgrounds. The building has got a fire sprinkler system. It's got a typical daily schedule, which encompasses playground hours, lunch, nap, and et cetera. So there's a schedule that is followed daily. From a development summary, this building is 10,000 square feet. Building height is between 26 and 30 feet. There may be an adjustment on that based upon Colleyville code that we will need to meet. Number of students is 190 versus, as also mentioned, Creme de la Creme is a much larger facility. So this is an alternative to a larger facility. It's a smaller campus that does appeal to some parents. There are 3 different playgrounds that you saw in the previous presentation. And the hours of playground, which was discussed extensively with P&Z, are starting at 9 a.m. and going to 11:30 a.m. And then again, a second group, 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. So the children aren't on the playground at 6:30 in the morning.
Yeah. How many employees?
I'm sorry?
How many employees?
There are 19. There's 17 staff and 2 essentially cooks or additional admin staff. The building elevations, we meet all code requirements on materials within the PUD, rock, stucco, brick. There may be some variation on that after we finalize the plans with staff within the city. And the site plan, this is where there were substantial changes based upon the consideration of the neighbors to the west. So originally, as discussed, the playgrounds were on the west side of the property. 2 of the main playgrounds have been moved to the front, which I'll show an example of that shortly. And the playground still does remain to the south, but we're adding a secondary wall to help contain the noise on the south and southwest corner, which I'll show in just a moment. In regards to the parking lot contains well over 40 spots, which is we're overparked from a code perspective.
How do does kids get dropped off? What's the traffic pattern for getting them in and out?
So the parents will pull up, they will park and walk the child in, and then there's a safety procedure in place, whether it's biometrics via your fingertip or anything to check the child in, and the parents will leave.
Because they'll just park in the parking lot.
Correct.
In that part, I can't see it in this, it's too small, but I remember looking at something before. In the parking lot, there's a hashed area in the north of the building.
It's next to the trash dump. It's for the.
Oh, the trash dumpster?
Yeah, it looks like.
Explain that, how that works.
Well, as far as the trash pickup?
Well, what I remember seeing in Jerry's office, it says refuse area, but then it seemed to be parking spaces on the other side. It wasn't clear to me what that is and how it's built and how it works.
It looks like it's the truck loading for the trash pickup.
It's just the notation for it,
Yeah.
the area.
Okay.
Oh, it's evacuation area? Oh, okay, it's a notation for the
Oh,
evacuation.
evacuation area. Okay, so that is just parking, is it a marked area or something, or?
It will be marked as an evacuation area in the event of the emergency. Kids will be taken over there.
Okay, so there are parking spaces pointing east and west to the west side of the parking lot. And is that a median? There's an kind of an oval, not
Looks
just
like
to the east of the evacuation area.
Looks
Is
like
that
a wall or
Yeah,
something.
is that a median, or what is that?
There's a landscape island. There's a
Landscape island, okay. All right.
But how do the cars get into those slots?
Well, that evacuation area is parking lot.
It's just an open?
It's an open, as
Oh,
I
okay.
understand, it's just an open parking lot. It's just, that's why I ask. It looks like it's not.
Okay,
Dry well? It's a dry well.
Driveway, yeah.
okay.
And so just to the south of that area we're talking about, close to the building, there's a notch in the parking lot. I can't tell what that is. What is that?
That's probably a dumpster, isn't it?
Dumpster.
It is.
Dumpster?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay, how will that dumpster be screened?
It'll be masonry per the city code,
Okay. What
to
kind
match
of
the
door?
building itself.
Okay.
We've already discussed the tree survey, which the plan's been approved by the city arborist as far as any tree mitigation, preservation, as well as the landscape plan itself.
Could you, before we get off the site plan again, I can't tell by looking at this, again, because it's small scale, how the playgrounds, I don't know if those are, I guess that's playground equipment in those two rectangles, I assume. And
Yes.
I don't know if that's fences around them or there boundaries that kids stay in that rectangle. And then there's some circular, like a figure 8 area. Could you just describe?
Sure.
Or if you're gonna show us later, that's okay.
Yeah, no, around the playground equipment itself, the rectangle, that's going to be a soft mulch material or a turf to help with fall zone protection.
Okay,
And then outside of that will be a grass area.
okay.
And then the figure 8 is a tricycle track, just
Okay.
concrete tricycle track. And all those items are contained within a fence, which I'll show shortly, 6-foot
Okay.
tall fence. So again, with safety access.
And then there's a small square up to the north of that one playground area right there. What is
Right
it?
there, again, it's a small little spot that'll have fall protection with it.
Okay, and then in between all of that, is that grass or?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, sir. Oh, it'll be grass all in that surrounding
Okay.
fenced-in area.
Okay.
But there's an entrance, is the entrance on the front?
Yeah, yes, on the entrance.
It's in the middle on the front?
Yeah, correct. So in between
Okay.
those playgrounds, you have the concrete walkway, which I'll show right. Here's a sample. I know there was a question about the aesthetics of the building itself.
Yeah.
With the wrought iron fence, you can still see through the fence and see the articulation and elevation of the property. This is an example of a facility in Frisco, where they moved the playgrounds up front as well.
Yeah, to that point, on the right-hand side of that picture, is that the end of the building?
Correct.
Looks like it.
Yes.
Okay, and so where is then the square area that is identified as the infant, toddler, soft surface, structural?
It would be right in here. I don't know if you can see my mouse.
So there's no elevated structure related to that?
No.
So it's just a pad in the ground?
Yeah, for the infant toddler, you're talking about a small device. I don't know exactly how high it is.
Yeah, for this particular facility, they don't have the actual playground the way we have shown on our drawing. So they don't have that infant playground. That's what-
Wait, it is like this or it's different?
It'll be very similar to
Very-
this.
okay.
Yeah, very
But
similar.
it doesn't have the playground area right there, like.
There's no
like he was
playground there.
Asking about, in this
In this picture,
facility.
there's not.
So there, in their facility, there will be something, that's what Jerry was asking about.
Right in the front.
Yeah, what's it gonna look like?
On both sides, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we don't have examples of the photos for the equipment itself.
And-
We could provide that if
And,
necessary.
and a similar question that's related to the elevation. It appears that this building that you're showing here is brick and stone. There's no
Yeah.
stucco or dry vit on it, is that true? I can't tell.
Correct. Yes, this is just providing a sample showing what the fenced-in areas would look like in front of a building.
Okay.
But what you see on the elevations earlier, the brick, rock, stucco, whatever, we're willing to work with the city on whatever those materials
Okay.
need to be. And they're also stipulated within the PUD itself.
Thank you.
So during the P and Z session, I wanted to address, there were several comments and questions related to safety as well as, noise consideration with the neighbors themselves. And so per the P and Z's request, the playgrounds were moved, the ones that were on the west side of the property, to the east side. And this is similar to an existing Primrose, which I'll show right here, which is over off Hall Johnson. So this is Hall Johnson on the bottom half. When you pull into the development itself, you see the playgrounds right up front. So it would be similar to this type of situation. And as was also shown earlier, there's a circular drive or a horseshoe where this building is actually in a safer position away from Colleyville Boulevard versus what you're seeing here. A few things, the property meets all code requirements from a construction standpoint. Building is 25 feet back from the property line. The
Can you,
west side.
I'm sorry, can you go back to that picture of the primrose?
Sure,
So I think in this primrose, that's the side view.
it is. Yeah, but the point is.
The point is the playground's in front.
Yeah,
I mean, or
exactly.
on that street side, but.
Correct. Yeah,
Okay,
that's what
but
I
that
was-
is a different perspective
Sure.
than the entrance,
Did
okay.
you have a top-down view that you showed us of Primrose? Yeah, that.
Yeah.
Okay, so Kathy, you're saying the entrance is on the left side of this?
Yes, where that little extra
got
piece sticks
Yeah,
out.
the
the-
entrance is here,
Yeah.
but as you come on, off the main road itself, you're coming straight into the parking lot, where the playground is.
There's a small playground, there's also one in the back, it looks like.
Correct. The west side building doors are used for emergency exit only. So the kids, in order to travel to the playgrounds themselves, will travel through the south or the eastern side doors. There was a question of, there's continuation of traffic in and out on the west side, and that's not the case. As you guys have already discussed, the site lighting meets the code requirements within Colleyville. It's actually 0.2 candles, because that was a question earlier. The tree preservation meets code and has been approved by the city arborist. Same with the tree removal, and there are no heritage trees, and that was a question as far as the size of the trees that were being removed. Just helpful information, playgrounds are grass except for around the playground equipment. Well, there'll be turf or mulch from a safety perspective. And the playground hours, 9 a.m. to 11:30, and then again 3 to 5. There's faculty on the playgrounds at any given time, and there's ratios with state code on how many faculty must be with the children themselves. So no matter what age they are, no matter what playground they're on, there's at least one staff, if not up to 4, out there. Mentioned the travel path already from to the east and south as far as to get into the playground. A portion of the west and southwest playground corner will have a solid vinyl fencing, and as was discussed too, is there's a solid, this masonry fence runs the entire western side of the property. The part that is exposed from a neighbor perspective is the southwest corner. And so what we're planning to do is add an additional vinyl fence within that south and west portion of the property to help mitigate some of that noise.
You're calling that a
A
mason?
question.
It's a vinyl fence. There's an existing 8-foot masonry fence.
You're calling it a masonry fence, but when I think of masonry, I think of stone and brick.
It's a
That's supposed to be-
concrete board. It's a concrete material. That was stipulated by the city.
That fence right there in the picture
Yes,
is?
yeah, the developer had to put this in when the wedding venue was approved.
Okay.
Yeah.
And are there
But are you saying the wall doesn't go all the way down?
It goes all the way to the west, to the southwest corner of the property. And then, so when our playground is going to go up go from west to east, we're gonna make sure that that's solid vinyl fencing as well. So the neighbor, that portion of the neighbor will have a continuous solid fencing. It won't be wrought iron facing their property.
I don't understand. Can you show me on the map what you're talking about?
Sure can. So if you can see right here, this portion will be a solid vinyl fence. This is already concrete fence in place. We'll continue this on solid, and this will be solid vinyl as well. So this L shape will be a solid 6-foot fence, and then it will turn back to wrought iron right here.
Okay.
And will there be specific drop-off and pickup times? Did you say that? Or will it be come and go, like as far as the traffic?
The heaviest traffic is obviously in the morning on the drop-off time, and then later in the afternoon. Within the packet, there was some data, and I don't know if they received that, Ben?
I didn't see
Yeah, we saw it.
Yeah,
It's-
okay.
It was at the data.
Yeah, okay, so that's where you're gonna see, and then the middle time of the day, I think it says there may be 20 cars in the parking lot at any given time. So you can get back to, all playground gates are fenced with gate alarms. This is where a lot of discussion was on the safety side of things. You can see this has a push bar with a red label on it. It's got an alarm system, so if that bar is pushed, an alarm goes off. And again, there's faculty on the playground at any given time. And then this is the opposite side of that gate where there's no door hardware in order to open the gate. Now, this fence is shorter than the ones we'll have. We'll have 6-foot fence with mesh, so there's no way to reach around or reach over in order to push that bar. Kind of go belt and suspenders on the safety side. The children are allowed in the building starting at 6:30 and out by 6:30 p.m. That was a question, if any, earlier, but those are the hours of operation. There are only two or three planned special events for the year, and what happens is the classes are rotated for parents to come in at different times, or if for instance they anticipate something else, they can accommodate off-site parking if necessary. But Kitty Academy doesn't historically have a lot of special events. There are no late hours of operation, so from a neighbor perspective, at 6:30, the operations are over. From a safety perspective, again, there was so much discussion on this. It meets all child care safety considerations. And the Texas Child Care book, if you will, licensing is over 222 pages. And so it's an extensive list of safety, not only in the facility, outside of the facility. So they'll definitely be paying attention into the entire project. From a traffic perspective, there are no known traffic issues. I know there's been, Tinker's a busy road as well as Colleyville Boulevard, but the overall design plan for Colleyville Boulevard encompasses this development itself. I'm talking about the overall development and the traffic within that. The retaining wall, addressing your question on the drainage, there's a retaining wall that's going to be on the backside to help with the grading difference that's currently in place. And the building's actually 3 feet lower than the fence itself in certain locations. So that fence becomes, instead of 8 feet, actually 11 feet, just due to the location of the building. Again, the building materials can be stucco, ephes, brick, and/or rock. We're willing to, make accommodations on that. Again, drainage runs from the neighbor's property through our property, and we'll accommodate that. And the soil of the fence will definitely be mitigated down as well. So, trying to see if there's anything else that's all I had in my discussion. So,
Yeah, I know that the neighbors have been concerned with noise, and I'm extremely concerned with noise. My own reaction is this plot was established for office buildings, and I just don't understand why there would be a consideration for putting this with 190 kids. I mean, maybe I could understand 30 kids. 190 kids is an awful lot of noise to be within 100 feet of the houses. And even if they're in front of the building, they're not more than 100 feet away.
So this property was zoned daycare, from what I understand,
It's not zoned daycare.
Well, I was just going to give the history from what the land seller said. Originally, it was entitled for daycare, and then all of commercial properties that would accommodate daycare changed to SUP process in 2009. So, there's.
Let's answer that. I don't believe that's correct. I mean, I'm not,
Can't be
2009,
true.
I'm talking about being zoned initially for daycare.
We asked Ben, but
We get an answer to that?
he just told us, I'm sorry, I interrupted. Ben just told us that it's zoned for office buildings.
Yeah, no, I think not to put any words in his mouth, but I think what the gentleman is arguing is that previously there may have been this as a permitted use, but that would not be relevant. Currently, it's a special use, and it's part of a PUD, and so what may or may not have been possible in the past has no bearing on this conversation today.
Understood, and you're correct. I was just trying to provide.
That may be true, because we have moved a number of uses to SUP, but we did that for a reason, because we wanted the opportunity to make the decision.
Understood. No, I can understand the concern there, and we're trying to mitigate that noise down as much as possible. The amount of children on the playground won't be 190 at any given time. They're going to go out in waves. Also, a lot of the children are extremely small, and with the additional fencing and on the southwest corner, and then moving the playgrounds to the front, we're trying to make as many accommodations as we can.
Southwest corner is not at the front. The southwest corner is within 25 feet of the fence. Kids can get within 25 feet of the fence. The wall, I'm sorry, the wall.
I can understand that. we're trying to make as many accommodations as possible.
And kids can be as old as 12?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, in the after school.
I'm just trying to make it clear, and when you say it, they're at the front of the building, that's not true.
Yeah, correct, outside of the south side of the property.
I don't, it seems to me like you're trying to stretch the
Okay, now I'm
story, and not-
confused. Are the kids in the front or the back? The picture
on the
showed them in the
side.
front.
They're on the
No.
front and the south.
No, one of
No,
the,
the east
the
side.
the largest children's playground is on the south side within 25 feet of the wall,
On the south side, but is it east or west?
south.
So look at this
I'm-
picture that,
Oh, they're all on the south.
well, one playground is on the south, and so what George is
Playground for
saying,
the largest children.
yeah.
Yeah.
the-
So there is one up front. Yeah.
Yeah, there- yeah,
Two
there's-
up front.
Two up
Two
front
up
and then
front.
one to the south.
Correct.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's-
And then there's
that's
like
what I'm trying to get.
an entrance between the two in the front.
Correct.
Is that
Yeah,
right?
in the
Okay.
front.
Exactly, so.
Kind of that walkway.
So what you're saying is there will be children on each of those playgrounds at different varying hours?
Correct. Yeah, they go out in 30-minute increments. And
So from what to what are the 30-minute increments? When do they start lunch?
9 a.m. to 11:30, and then again from 3 to 5.
Do you know how many students are out there at a time?
Any given time, there's no more than 56 students on the playground.
56?
Yeah, it's in
Okay.
the data that you
But
guys
they're,
have.
Okay.
but they're spread out between the big kids' playground and the small kids' playground.
Yeah, there's 3 different playgrounds based on
Right,
age.
two in the
but
front,
really
one on the
small,
south.
Yeah.
versus, some of the bigger kids.
Okay.
And
Thank you.
here's the entrance on the question, be like this.
Yeah, my other concern, one of my other concerns is the driveways to get there. I guess well, I know they're wide, I've been out there myself, so I know they must be wide enough for 3 cars, I guess. Or can cars park on each side of the road?
On the horseshoe drive?
Yes.
That's an internal fire lane. It's not considered a street.
So they
itself.
can't park there?
No, correct.
They
Yeah,
have to park in the lot?
correct.
What happens if the lot's full? Let's say there's a storm or something where, people have to come and get their kids early.
There is the Wedding Chapel parking lot, which is opposite hours of ours, and we could have a conversation with them. We've spoken to them about our development as well. And then this is where we get into the special events about off-site parking, or actually onto their property, as well as somewhere else located for special events. But in regards to your evacuation type scenario, those are definitely hard to predict. We're over-parked by, I believe, 6 or 8 spots currently. So that should help mitigate some of the situation.
Well, I don't think it will have much impact when you have 190 kids. I mean, that could easily be 120 cars, right?
Well-
Throughout the day,
Very easy, yeah.
twice.
Didn't it say a third of these had 2 kids?
Yeah. the
Did I read
consideration-
that somewhere?
Yeah, correct. So
Did you get
these
those
are
figures
national
from?
averages, and so.
That's what I was going to ask, where you get the
Yeah,
figures.
they're national averages, because
Okay.
there's no way to predict each site, but a third they will have multiple students at the building, parents, as well as some of the faculty will have students as well. So that helps reduce the number of trips too.
Yeah, I guess, I'm more, you said that planning and zoning wanted a speed limit on the road. My bigger concern is cars parked there when the parking lot gets full.
Again,
And it's, in my opinion, it's going to happen. I went to the opening to the wedding chapel, and we had way too many cars for their parking lot. And there were cars parked everywhere along the roads, both sides of the roads, in the grass. So anyway, I'm definitely concerned about the traffic. I'm really more concerned, though, about the interruption of the people that live behind this. I know that if I were living there, I would definitely be considering moving, because having cars show up at 6:30 in the morning, the car lights are going to have some impact. The cars driving in are going to have an impact. And I just think it's pretty significant. Also, what about delivery? You're going to have food and supplies and
Sure,
other
at-
things.
At any given time, usually those are coming in the middle of the day where there's limited traffic, and that's when they're taking in supplies, whether it's food delivery or other type of paper supplies, things of that nature. Those are scheduled off hours, off busy pickup and drop off hours.
Okay.
So would they be amenable to considering moving the school-age playground to the front of the building and moving the infant one to the side?
If we could accommodate that, we could consider it, definitely. It just depends on the amount of square footage there. We'd have to review it. You have any comment on it?
I think I would appreciate if you take a look at that.
Okay.
And see, because I think that would at least be some mitigation around George's concerns on sound.
Okay.
Quite frankly, I don't think it's going to make much difference because
It may not, but
the sound is going to travel, and that building is only, what is it, 60 feet or 100 feet? What are the dimensions of the building?
From, which component? From the back wall or the total?
No, just the dimensions, the
rectangle
side,
about
the
what
rectangle
size?
size.
You have it?
I can't read it on the,
I can barely.
in fact, I couldn't see it on the diagram. I see that one of the playgrounds is 60 feet.
Yeah, it's 134 feet from north to south and about 80 feet or so east-west.
Okay, so those playgrounds in the front are 100 feet from the wall roughly.
Correct. I
Yeah.
think something that does help is the height of the building will help block some of that noise. And I know that some of the concerns with the residents is,
Yeah.
anyway.
Okay, you know, my bottom line is this was zoned and planned for office building. An office building probably has less than 10% of the traffic that this does, has no significant noise outside. And I think the impact on the neighborhood is very, very dramatic. So that's my bottom line.
Understood.
I missed this, I'm sorry. Which playground is in the front, which is on the side?
Which playgrounds are up front?
The small kids are on.
The infant toddlers are on the northeast side, and then running down to this is the middle-aged kids.
Or, the school-age kids are only there after school?
Correct.
Except in the summer, right? So,
Correct.
I mean, that playground would be used the least.
They're on there from, I think, 4 to 4:30.
Yeah, so
That's
I mean,
That's minimal.
that is a positive, that most of the playgrounds that are being used are in front of the building,
Correct.
the majority of the day.
No.
As far as the bigger kids.
The bigger kids are in school most of the day, so that playground's only used after school.
Yeah, but the older preschool are there.
It's used during the day, yeah.
Yeah, it's used during the
I
day.
think what she was saying is the kids 6 to 12 are the after-school kids, or
Yeah.
I should say 7 to 12.
Okay.
Are there.
But I mean, kids up to 6.
Yeah.
Or 5 or whatever will be using it.
Yeah.
My point is that there could potentially be a lot of noise, and I just wouldn't be happy with it there.
Any other questions of the applicant?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Just to offer a comment, I think that to the maximum ability to mitigate the neighbors, obviously, the goal is to keep the playground areas in the front or the east side of the building, and even to the minimum extent on the south side. Having said that, I think the design of the entranceway and the building architecture, I think, are even more important. And so, 2 suggestions I'd like to make. One is that the building material be more in line with what's in the picture of brick and stone, and more in line with the wedding venue that's a neighboring property, which is very, very high-end design and material. And then 2, the entranceway as it's identified in the picture instead of having the fence come up to it, maybe the fence is pushed back a little bit, and it creates a green area that could be serving as a kind of entranceway feature out toward the road to kind of create, I know it sounds a little corny, but almost like a tree-lined entranceway that then is segmented off to the side by the, and mitigates the areas that are for the playgrounds. I think those two things, while they're not ideal, given some of the constraints you have as far as space, may mitigate some of the concerns about the aesthetics of the elevation.
Okay.
Yeah, and again, you know, again, just to my point, if this were on a commercial area that, you know, was surrounded by commercial situations, I would have no complaints. But I'm definitely very, very concerned that they're so close to those houses. Those houses are, you know, are not on big lots themselves. And so they're not very far from these, from your development. And that's my major concern.
Do you have any information or knowledge about noise that George is talking about from playgrounds, since y'all have a lot of facilities?
I don't know if we have anything like that, not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
You know, I just wanted to comment on the traffic, George. I know you're concerned about that, and it's been quite a few years. My kids are a little older now, but they did go to a Primrose, and traffic was just never a problem. I mean, people stop, they get their kids inside, and they leave. They don't kind of linger. So I don't see that as being a big issue. Like you said, it's where they went, there were 2 or 3 times a year. There was an event, a festival or a Christmas thing, and there was a little bit of parking issue, but I mean, those are the times you could probably use the event parking and work with them. I don't think that's going to be a big issue, even on a bad weather day. Parents still filter in from work as soon as they can get there, and it seems to move pretty quick. So I just want to throw that in.
They're trying to encourage everybody to get in and get out
Yeah,
as quickly as
absolutely.
possible.
Nobody wants them to linger, especially the kids.
Correct.
Okay, if there's no more questions or discussions right now, I need to open a public hearing. And then we can talk some more if we need to. So I'm going to open the public hearing. Public hearing is open. Have a card, Susan Reynolds.
Good evening. My name's Susan Reynolds. I live at 6417 Kingston. I'm one of the homes that is directly behind this daycare.
Can you state your name again, ma'am? I couldn't-
Susan Reynolds. And I want to start with a comment that was kind of from a couple of the commissioners, from the Planning Commission, and Faye, who was the landowner. Kind of, we weren't able to address it because we were time limited, and they would get up and talk, and we couldn't talk again. But the theme was that we knew something was going to be built behind our homes, and so why are we now complaining? And they're right, we did know something was going to be built behind our homes, because when my husband and I wanted to buy this house in 2012, just 8 years ago, we went to the city and we asked what was proposed for that land. And we all went to the map. You guys were very kind, explained to us that it was for office space zoning. I, not being from Texas, I didn't know what that meant, so I asked if they could elaborate on it. And they said doctor's offices, lawyers, CPAs. I said, so low traffic business? And they said, absolutely. So I said, so like schools, retail, entertainment can't move there? She goes, absolutely not. I said, but at any point in time would this zoning change? And she said, well, it would take an awful lot to have the zoning change. So with that, we made the commitment to buy the house, and with expressed assurance from the city that it was going to stay single-story office space, we made the purchase. Over the years, we kept an eye on the property because we knew at some point it was going to be built, and when the for sale signs went up, we really kept an eye on it. We'd come down to the city, we'd look at the map, because I didn't realize you could look online. And then when they started clearing and putting the wall in, that's when my senses really perked up. And when they were building the wall, they found out that our property line was wrong. We gained 2 feet of our property, and we gained 2 of the trees. that I didn't ever like. But now they're on my property. And so at that time, they were clearing the lots, and I understand tagging the trees. So I went down to the city and I said, hey, you're cutting trees down. Would you mind cutting these oak trees down? And actually, the arborist was there, and he talked to me. He was very nice. And he said, oh, those are tagged. You cannot cut those down. And I'm like, what does that mean? And he says, well, I've tagged them. And they were originally, if you look at the tree preservation that they have up there, I don't know how to get to it. They have all along the fence line, they have it green, like they're preserving those trees. But those trees aren't on this property anymore. They're on our property. So we're preserving them now because we can't cut them down.
What kind of trees are they?
They're oak. They're just little scrub oak, awful trees. They're shading my fruit trees. So the ones that are on the west side there along the fence line, those don't even belong to this property. They're all ours now. In fact, they meant so much to be tagged that when they built the wall, it's not straight. It curves out around these trees. So we have all these little divots. And so I guess that brings me to the trees that are, because as soon as I talked to the city, I called actually Fay, the landowner. I had his number, and I said, hey, what's going on behind our house? And he says, well, we're out here clearing and tagging the trees, and he assured me the trees were going to stay because he loved the trees. And I said, well, is anything going to be built yet? And he says, not yet. He says, and he reassured me it was zoned for office space, and so I was cool with that because we knew that the wedding chapel was going in, and that made us nervous because it's like the slippery slope. Once you start approving something that goes against the zoning, where this isn't office space, it's 2-story now, and they want to stay open till 11, that's the wedding chapel, it gets you nervous for the other things that might be built. And so here we are now facing a daycare, and I kind of chuckle when he says that the building is going to help with the noise, because where we are inside our home, I can hear events and concerts going on in downtown Colleyville. I can't imagine a building muffling the noise of children screaming and playing on the playground. I'm sorry. So I know this is, I don't want to be a pessimist, but my neighbors and stuff aren't able to come here, and I feel like I'm holding up this battle. But I know for the most part it's probably a losing battle. And I guess what I want to ask the city is what you're going to do for us as residents who have to live with the fallout of the decision to keep this daycare. One of the things I want to ask, and you were asking about the dumpster, if that could be moved to the far part of the parking lot, not so close to our homes. I work at Town Center Animal Hospital. We used to be here in Colleyville, right next to Sherwin-Williams. For 2 years, I took trash down to the dumpster every evening and was greeted by 10 to 15 rats every night. And every time it scared me, even though I anticipated them running out. And when I scared them, they would run back over the fence into the residence.
Wow.
And that's always been a concern of mine in anticipating something being built here. If it was office space, it wouldn't be a concern because we're just dealing with paper products. But we're dealing with a school that's going to be feeding kids, diapers, everything that's going to go into this dumpster. They can lock it, rats get in anyway. It'll keep the raccoons out, but it won't keep the rats out. And so that's a concern of mine, if that can be moved to the farthest part of the parking lot, closer to the street. Also, this building is going to be 30 feet tall. When I look out my living room window, I'm going to see this building. When I'm in my backyard, which I'm in all the time because I garden, I'm going to be seeing this building, and I'm asking you as a city, is there something other than wax myrtle? They only get 20 feet tall, and I don't even know how long it takes them to grow, but something, because I'm not going to be here for another 30 years. I'm not going to live that long to enjoy a tree that's going to grow up fast enough to block this building. And I don't know if you can come together and find something that would help us block that view. And one other thing, my husband and I, if we come to you wanting to build a tall shed to help block this monstrosity, if you would help in improving something or work with us, that we could come together, a peace of mind, and not oppose it. But the last thing, and then I'll be done, is we sort of alluded to the traffic, but we really haven't discussed the traffic on 26 and how this is going to look like, because this entrance to this Winding Creek Circle is only a tenth of a mile, 175 yards from the traffic light. And so kids are going to be picked up and in the mornings at the height of commute, or they're going to be dropped off at the height of commute traffic. I know, I've been there for 8 years. I've taken my kids to school, to Grapevine, to Cross Timbers. I know what it's like to fight the traffic. And then they're going to be picked up at the height of commute traffic going south. And those cars, possibly 190 cars, we don't know. Statistics aren't always correct. We could theoretically be dealing with 190 cars twice a day, trying to get across 3 lanes of traffic. I know they want to say that the new road is going to absorb all this, but the traffic stops at Tinker, and it backs up, and it can back up all the way to McCain, waiting to get through Tinker. And so the cars are going to have 3 choices. They're going to be backing up in the circle trying to get out, and so they're going to cross 3 lanes of traffic that's backed up at the light, or they're going to slowly try to merge and try to get over in 175 yards to get to the turn lane to make a U-turn to go north if these guys need to go north, but they're going to probably go, which is the least resistance, and that they're going to merge into the right lane, and then they're going to take a right on Tinker, and then my street is right there. And mine circles around, and they can get back on Tinker, get back on 26. Right now, we barely have any traffic on our road, just us residents. We may have a car once every 30 minutes, but I have a feeling we're going to have at least 50 to 60 cars coming down our street to avoid the traffic. I would. If I'm sitting in that circle trying to get out from my kids' daycare, I'm on the phone mapping, trying to figure out the next time which is going to be the quicker way to get out of there. And so I just leave that with you guys. And if any of you have not gone out and looked at this and walked the lot and see how close it is to our homes, it's only 20 feet. And I don't know what they mean by the doors being emergency doors. Does that mean there'll be alarms on the doors if they get opened, or what consists of emergency to them? But I just feel that there's a better place for this daycare in Colleyville. And my hope is that you, as a city council, will stay true to your word when we were told that it was going to be office space and not a school. Thank you.
Thank you. That's all the cards I have. Anyone else wish to speak? I see no one indicating, so I'm going to close the public hearing. Public hearing is closed. So this is the first reading. There's no action tonight. It'll be on the agenda again next meeting, and then we'll take action. Any other questions or discussion before we move on? And we're going to have a 10-minute recess, and we'll be back.
10 minutes, why do we get 10 minutes tonight? Why do we get 10 minutes instead?